this video, what I'm going to be focusing on is building a team, building a successful, powerful team that's going to support what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And since you're here, the assumption is that what you're trying to accomplish is investing successfully in multifamily properties, and that you're going to have a good ROI and you're going to minimize your risk as much as possible, and that it's going to be, a strong financial move for you. So when it comes to a team, I've watched a lot of videos on team building, and I've built a lot of teams over the years. The way I like to think about teams is kind of the categories that you need your team members for. So this video is also operating under the assumption that either you may have direct partners, maybe investor partners or something that you work with. We certainly do. There are 3 of us that are general partners, and then we have to agree on everything in order to make any moves down below. And the beauty of that is it keeps us accountable. And if we get emotional about something, then someone's not emotional about it. So, we all have to agree on it. So that's a big advantage. You don't need to have that, but that serves us very, very well because we invest large amounts of money. And, when there's a great opportunity, you need to pounce on those opportunities. Otherwise, you miss out. So that being said, here are the categories, the way that I see them when it comes to investing in your multifamily properties. One is going to be, how are you finding your deals? Okay, so that's definitely, none of these are more important than other categories. They're all important. But how you're going to find your deals, that's a big one. And you're competing against a lot of people out there that want to find these deals. So it could be a combination network of general, bird dogs. So for example, maybe wholesalers, maybe plumbers, that you work with a lot. Other investors, that buy properties. Maybe they have portfolio packages where they own a bunch of properties. They've been doing this for years and they need to unload some of them or all of them. Contractors are a great source as bird dogs. So if you're giving work to someone. Now, you may be new to investing and you may not have these people, these relationships yet. That's okay, it'll come. You can instantly form relationships with real estate agents. So first of all, you only want to pick seasoned real estate agents that really know what they're talking about. There are a lot of agents out there. I'm one of them. I'm a real estate agent, and I serve high net worth clients and investors, and that's who I specialize in working with. But there are a lot of agents out there that are just terrible. They're terrible at their jobs, and they provide a significant disservice to their clients, meaning they're hurting their clients with their bad advice and with their low quality service, level of service. So be very, very picky in who you choose to work with. That is what the wealthy do. They're very, very slow to partner with new people. They do their research. They make sure that these people are really, really good and deserving of their trust, and then they trust them. And they ask questions, and then based on the answers, because now they trust them and they feel good about these people, not because they just like them, because they're bubbly and they like their personality, but because they really know what they're talking about. So they partner well with them, and they're glad about the choice, and then they trust the advice. So real estate agents, and I don't like to put them in the same sentence usually next to real estate agents, but wholesalers. Now, wholesalers you have to be really careful with, because wholesalers, they are, in my mind, not always, there are some good ones out there, but most wholesalers are a big step below like used car salesmen. They are salespeople that have not been required to get any certification, take any classes, nothing. They can just, they just show up and say, I'm a wholesaler, and that's good enough. So with real estate agents, it's not hard to become a real estate agent, but you have to take classes. There are ethical requirements. There are legal requirements, and sure, with the wholesaler, there are some legal requirements too, but a lot of them don't even know what those legal requirements are, and there are no ethical requirements. So for example, a real estate agent, you do something unethical, you can permanently lose your real estate license. You can have prison time, you can have fines and fees. As a wholesaler, there is no real estate license. They never had to go to class. They never had to go to school. There's no certification. They're just, an investor that's not an investor. And a lot of wholesalers that I've talked with, they talk about their business like they invest, and they don't. What wholesalers do is they form a contract with a seller, and they essentially are pretending to be a buyer. And then they go out and then they say, hey, good news, I locked up this contract. Do you want in? And they try to find a legitimate buyer that will actually buy it. That's what wholesalers do. On rare occasion, you have wholesalers that will buy property too, but I mean, it's incredibly rare. And most of the time, there's no intention for them to purchase. Now, recently, there was a law that was passed that wholesalers have to notify the seller. I'm a wholesaler, I don't intend to buy. So that's good news. Some of them are still not doing that. It's really a shame. So you just have to be really careful that when wholesalers bring you business, when they're bird dogs for you and they bring you business, they don't have the ethical requirements that real estate agents have. And there's not really much of a code there, an honor code. So just be really careful that you dig deep on your due diligence of the property and that you verify everything. Never trust something as true when a wholesaler tells you what's going on. Always verify everything. So when it comes to finding these deals, if you don't have the network of the contractors and the handymen and the subs and all this kind of stuff, that's okay. Start by reaching out to top, and I mean absolutely top, investment specialized, commercial specialized, multifamily specialized real estate agents that do a lot of business. People that are really, really busy. That's who you want to work with. And then wholesalers, there are a lot of wholesaler networks out there. You do not have to pay to be part of them, and you can join those. But honestly, if you're maybe not as savvy yet, and you'll get there, you'll become quite savvy over time with experience. But if you're not there yet, you may want to focus on real estate agents and wait on reaching out to any of these wholesalers. So that's your bird dogging, that's your finding deals category with your team. Okay, the next category is your purchasability, meaning your ability to purchase these properties. So if you're a cash buyer, well then done. You're one person operation. You don't need to build more of a team with that. But if you need financing, then you need a good lender. And really you should have 2 or 3. So reaching out to them and talking to them about what your plans are and having them get you term sheets based on, you can either just give them estimated credit, you can give them your estimated DTI related info, for example, your income versus your expenses and kind of purchase price where you'll probably be landing, what type of properties. And then they can tell you up front, this is what our loan to value, our LTV typically is. These are the loan origination points. Here's the interest rate, the length of the financing. They can give all this to you in term sheets. And so you can form these relationships and you can have these lenders kind of line up and all of that. Also, you may need to partner with investors. And in order to buy, you want to be ready. You don't want to start making offers if you can't make offers, if you can't buy yet. So if you need help on the money down part, or if you want to come all cash and you don't have all the cash, then you need to find some partners. And that can be tough, finding people with cash that are willing to put the cash out there. They do exist, but that's a crucial part of your team. And again, if you're not a one-person operation and you require help from these other people, get that help, make sure you have the team, and lock that down so that you can move forward with actually pursuing possible properties to buy and then making offers and then moving forward and all of that. Now, another really critical category is due diligence. So for example, with our fund, Capital Giants, that is actually, all these categories are critically important, but that is a category that we spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of expertise wrapping a beautiful little package with a tight bow on it for due diligence. So for us, we make sure that we have great relationships with contractors, with relevant property managers, with inspectors, property inspectors, and on and on and on. And sometimes if it's an older property, potentially bad roof, things like that, we're going to be getting out roof inspectors. Sometimes we're going to get licensed electricians in there or general contractors in there to check out and do an actual electrical inspection, sometimes a septic and or sewer inspection, and on and on and on. So we have all that stuff checked out. We don't want to have surprises later. Sometimes on these multifamily properties, you've got to spend 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand on something you didn't expect, and that can be a problem depending upon what's going on with your checkbook. So due diligence is really critical. And there are a lot of inspectors, just like anything else, just like real estate agents or whatever else. There are good ones and there are bad ones. So what I would recommend is one of your first connections should be really good real estate agents, at least one. I don't recommend more than one in the market area where you're going to be buying, but if you're looking at multiple market areas, you want your agent to be in that market area and you want them to be highly specialized and very good at what they do. And so those agents should be able to help you expand your team that we're talking about here. They should be able to connect you with really good inspectors in that area that really know their stuff. Hopefully a contractor or two or even three. I mentioned that I'm also a real estate agent, so I've been doing that for a long time. And again, I'm investment specialized. So I have my own contractors that I keep busy. So they don't seek business anywhere else. So what that means is we close escrow, and within a week, I've got work started. If they're doing a big job, they're breaking ground. If they're doing a remodel, they're in there and they're pulling out some of the tile and putting in new flooring or whatever it is that they're working on. But within a week, and usually within 1 or 2 days. As an example, when I'm recording this live video, 2 days ago, closed escrow on a Sedona, Arizona, a beautiful luxury property. And literally yesterday, the day after close of escrow, we've got roof work going on at that property from a licensed roofer. So having these connections makes a big, big deal. And again, for the fund, we we don't smother it, but we definitely surround this and we massage the shoulders and make sure that we know just about everything. We want to become the experts on that property. And having the team is critical. You can't do that by yourself. And really, that shouldn't be your job. You want to have specialists that really dive in deep on those things. Now, another category that's really important is development. So let's assume that everything looks good. Your due diligence is nice and clean. Your purchasability is dialed in. Obviously, you found the deal. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be talking about due diligence. So it moves forward and you close escrow. Now you own it. So now you're in the development phase. And if you don't have a good team there, you're going to be in trouble. If you try to just go out there and be your own handy person and do the work, with multifamily, that's a lot of, you need a team of people that know what they're doing. They'll give you a decent rate, they'll do quality work, and they're going to raise that value for you. And hopefully, as part of that raising value, it's going to allow you to increase your rents. And then again, that continues to foster greater value for the property. And then you can either hang on to the property, you could sell it, you can do whatever you need to do. But raising those rents and generally raising that property value, it's really, really critical. So obvious members of your development team are going to be licensed contractors, licensed subcontractors, for example, electricians and plumbers and all of that, roofers. But having a really good 1 or 2 licensed contractors that you can lean on, and they're not too busy. And they'll not only take your call, but they'll give you feedback and you can meet them over there and the whole bit. That is the most critical part of your development. But don't forget about your relevant property managers, because if they're part of the process from the very beginning, and if they come out, even you meet out there at the property with your contractor, with your property manager, this is all stuff we do for the fund. So when you do that and you involve the property manager that you think you're going to use, once the stuff gets developed, they're going to have feedback and they're going to be in the loop. It's not only going to give the contractor and you great advice on moving forward on this stuff, but it's also it's also going to help them be in the loop on the timing so that they can, some of the units, maybe you can rent them out while the work is being done. And some of the units, you have to be vacant and on and on. So they can be working on maybe increasing rents of what's currently there. Sometimes these properties are just poorly managed. And so you have a current management system where they're not charging enough, they're not marketing well, they have terrible follow-up with tenants or potential tenants, they're not kicking out tenants that aren't paying rent, maybe there's crime that's going on because you don't have lights or cameras or whatever else needs to happen, or they're just not picking up the phone and calling the police or whatever needs to happen on these properties. But when you get another manager that gets really, really involved with what's going on, again, they'll not only have great advice that can benefit multiple layers of what's going on with your project, but it'll help them be able to support you. And knowing, and this is a whole different video topic, which you can look for. I'm going to add it on here in the next 3 days. But the topic of, setting goals, realistic, desirable goals that help get you what you want, that in itself is its own separate topic. So I'll go into that. But I hope this has been helpful with the team. As always, you can reach out to us, ask additional questions. We're always looking at questions that are coming in from current clients, potential clients, on and on, about what they want us to help teach. So just let us know. We're happy to provide videos on that and help guide you through it. And hopefully we're going to start meeting a bunch of you guys here pretty soon. Reach out anytime. All right, take care.